Hi, Em.
Hello, how you doing, Karen?
I'm doing great. It's great. It's good to see you. The last time I saw you, we were climbing a mountain.
Oh yeah, and my daughter was teaching you how to queue too. Yeah.
That she was, and I am a cute failure, but I'm still learning. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about you. What you do, where you were born, what was it like growing up?
Well, that's a lot to begin with, but I was born deaf, and so my parents adopted me when I was 5 months. They discovered my hearing loss when I was 18 months, or confirmed it really, and they explored all the options. They went through the early intervention system in North Carolina, and we were in a rural county, so education options were not much for me, and a
Hmm?
lot of pessimism in there.
And
So
what?
my mom
And what?
pessimism, negative experiences, and so my mom met or talked to the first Q mom, Mary Elsie Daisy, on the phone, and she learned all about Q speech. And she's like, "Oh, this sounds good for me." So from there, I they started queuing, learning to queue. My parents, my mom was really more active because she stayed at home a lot of the time with me. But my dad was in the military, so it was harder for him.
Uh,
However, my dad finally bought in after my mom said, "Do you want to have a relationship with your son? You need to queue." And so from there, I started going to queuing camps. My I started receiving SLP services, and the SLP speech language pathologist learned the queue just for me. And so I had more access to more people, and my family, my cousins started learning to queue too. And so this is all on the farm. I'm not exposed to many people in the first place. However, my parents made a decision to move to another town with more services and more options for me with cute speech. And I thrived in mainstream. I was fully mainstream with cute language translators who are similar to ASL interpreters, but for cute speech. And
mhm. So those two interpreters, did they grow up with you in the
from
mainstream,
the
or did
very
they?
I had a lot of different people, a lot from my church, some from the community, and I had up to five different CLTs in one school year because there's four of us. So we had a pool to draw from, and they were rotating around. So it's nice. And that was at the time.
Friends that also queued with you?
Well, those deaf cures,
Part of
yes,
you?
they were all deaf. You are native cures, yes. So we had our own community there.
Um, so, do you have a brother or sister?
No, I'm an only child.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess family dinners were easy. You had mom and dad who queued, so you have that
Right. Yeah.
aspect.
Yes.
Yeah. So, when you graduated from high school, what did you do?
Yeah. After high school, I went on to North Carolina State to study mineralogy and oceanography. Um, I finished in 4 years. However, in my fourth year, Gallagher happened. The protests, the unity protests, all of that. Things go
Mhm.
on. I saw this in the news, and this was at a time where I'm just getting back into the community because I was so successful from the key speech. I kind of walked away from QA. I was at the cochlear plant when I was 7, so I had so much success with it. But then in college, I thrived, as hearing a person with the implant, I have my own independence. I never requested services, all of that. And so finally, after all of that, I discovered deaf education. And there's not much in terms of key speech research. So like, there needs to be more done. So that's my fire. In 2007, and I got involved with the NCSA as a board member and more involved at QKFs. Actually, went to all the QKFs right here. So that was my adventure key speech that just evolved. It continued to evolve today. So,
So today you serve on the boards of what?
Colorado Hanson Forces is the only board I am on right now, but I am the executive director of Rocky Mountain Key Speech Association. I was an NCSA board member for several years, and they focus locally on Colorado, and so that's my nonprofit. Right there now, what I really do is I'm an administrator and developer for Q College, which is an online learning platform where you can take courses. And we'll continue to add more courses as such. But for now, people can take an online course to learn the whole system. As an introduction course is only $49. So it's a great resource to get people started, and we'll be offering more as the time goes on.
So if families want to learn more about queuing, where is the best place for them to start?
It depends on where you are. We suggest getting started right away, which is why we got the online course up. And then, however, there's workshops from time to time and queuing camps. Queuing camps really are the most effective way of immersing yourself in your environment with other queuers, especially for your kids as well, because they get exposed to more deaf queuers and adult queuer models. It's just there's different resources depending on where you are. So, for example, in Virginia, we have a strong community because the schools already provide the support. However, as you go further west, there's not as much support because there's not really that many families using it. So, how that started to change as those families get more organized. To get started, just email the NCSA at info@keyspeech.org, and really they'll be able to refer you to the best resources locally.
Okay, I thank you for that. I know I stayed with one family in South Africa who, they use spoken language, they use ESL with the kids, but they are also cute, and it was very interesting watching them in action because sometimes they would speak and sometimes they would sign, and then there were times where the daughters would learn a brand new word and the queuing came in because right then and there, the daughters learned how to pronounce a word that was completely, totally new to them. So it was really cool to see that in action.
Yeah, my favorite word is supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, simply because we can cue any word we want to, whether it's narcissist or not. If it has sound associated with it, we can cue it. So excited to have that.
That is cool. That's cool. So tell me about you. What do you do for fun?
So to stay mentally healthy, I go out to the backcountry. I spend a lot of time in the mountains, hiking, camping, splitboarding, which is snowboarding, where you ski uphill and they put the boards together and snowboard downhill. So that's what I do most of the winter time. Also spend a lot of time with my daughter. I'm stay-at-home dad, part-time. And so I really love spending time with my family.
And your daughter is fluent queuing.
Oh yeah, she's actually hearing, but she's a native queuer because her mom and dad are deaf queuers, and we needed her to cue to us. So we cued her since she was born, and we never really went through a formal instruction in terms of the whole system. And we would show her how the sound is cued, and we would spend some time focusing on the cueing. But she really is fluid, and it's like, wow, 4.5 years old, she's fluid, expressively, and receptively.
Yeah, and then you can fully understand her. Yeah, that's really cool. Is there anything else you want to share with families who may be curious about queuing?
Key speech really is not that complicated as it may seem. It really is two questions that you ask yourself every time you cue. What is the head shape? Where does it go? And so really there's 4 positions around the mouth and head shapes for cue in American English. So you're just learning to type really with your hands. And it's English through the air. And so for children who don't read or write, this is really their way of accessing your language at home, whether it's English, Spanish, Chinese, any language they speak, we can actually cue. And so we have adaptations for most commonly used languages now. So that's another benefit of key speech. It's just full access. It's auditory, visual. So in case the cocoa plate is broken, you still have access. In case, there's issues, there's always something. And you have that backup. Also, it's not one or the other. You can use both key speech and ASL. It's always that. For hearing impaired who don't know ASL, they came with a bridge. While you're learning to sign, you become fluent in key speech and you continue down the path, but you still provide access to your child. So the progression of skills really is different for signing versus QA. QA is more about accuracy. The cat sat on the hat. And so that's what's going on with QA versus signing. You have birder versus, butterfly, figure out the differences in science, semantics. So it's in language learning, but versus code switching. It's an experience that all parents should be able to go through a lot of support. So that's my goal for the families, is make sure they get that support for their child, whether it's QA, ASL, or both. It's all possible.
And I want to thank you for sharing your story today and sharing more about kid speech. We will
Thank
add
you for having me.
to this. Okay. Thank you.